Parts to it.
It does. I haven't been up there in ages. And I really, yeah, I'm up there all the time. One up there about noon, I'd say, something like that.
Commission version said that there will be a council member as liaison person,
Absolutely splendid.
and I changed that
And past
to this
11
board's called,
hikers.
project to
Going up
project.
or down, or, you know, three or four, couple
From this
of
board,
ladies up the top out there. But
yeah, when they're
the trail is
my
highly used,
experience
isn't
with
it?
that liaison
In the
thing.
summer, you can't even get
In the
parts.
No,
past, it's
yeah.
turned out when
I
it's not treated as a
drove up there
thing.
one Memorial Day weekend.
Somebody there, you're right. But
All right, it is 6 o'clock. Welcome to the December meeting of the Black Mountain Town Council, and if you would, let's stand for the invocation, the prayer which is being offered this evening by Father Brian Becker, St. Margaret Mary's Catholic Church.
I don't think he's made it, Mayor Harris.
All right, well, so we're gonna go to Plan B. So, does any member of council wish to offer the invocation this evening? If not, if it's agreeable, I'll do so. But Lord, we give thanks for this beautiful day you have given us. We give thanks for the opportunity to serve. We give thanks for those who've joined us this evening, both in this room and over the internet, and their interest in our town and community. We give thanks. We pray for our employees. We pray for our community. We pray for our county and state and country, and for our leadership, and ask for wisdom for them, for us, for our citizens. We ask for especially wisdom and grace this time of year to work toward reconciliation, in particular at this time of year. We give thanks and we ask our prayers. I ask my prayers because of my Christian belief in Jesus' name, and offer a moment of silence for those who wish to pray in another fashion. And with that, in Jesus' name, amen. Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible. The announcement that I would make at this time on my behalf is just to thank everybody involved for their work for the holiday parade. It was well done. I think we all had fun. I think we handled a new protocol for distributing candy. Very gracious, and just everybody rose to the occasion.
We tried.
There you tried. That's right.
Although it slowed you way down. We still had a ton of
have some bugs to work out. So anyway, everybody involved, especially the folks at the chamber that worked so hard for that. And that looked like a nice crowd, so it was a lovely time. We do have a few citizen comments. And the first would be Ann Lutz. And so if you would, name and address, and you have 3 minutes.
May I take my mask off?
You may.
Oh, my goodness. Thank you. Ann Lutz, 211 North Park Lane. I'm giving a report on behalf of the Black Mountain Greenways and Trails Committee. We were formed in March of 2021 to carry out activities formerly done by the Greenway Commission. Many of those activities are no longer allowed under rules governing commissions, and we became a 501c3 under the umbrella of the Parks and Greenways Foundation in March. Brief summary of our first 9 months. We committed funds to repairs on the Garden Greenway, which is currently a delayed project due to labor and supply scarcities. We carried through with the Greenway event, formerly run by the Commission, the Greenway Challenge. We ran in April with a new route, starting at Parks and Rec and went into the Oaks Trail, so we were on the trails more, which was a really nice change. We have renovated the Village Way Pollinator Garden. We had 90 volunteer hours to work there, cleaning out old debris and weeds and replanting with clumping grasses and milkweed. And we installed a second pollinator sign. Emily Sampson has given us a plan that will help us with our yearly care that will be required by this area. And a big thanks to her for her guidance and hard work on this project. And also a shout out for Public Works for helping us and doing a quick repair on the Greenway where we had a massive hump. And so that was really nice. And we'll try to do the educational component next year. We ran Chalk the Walk. This was our 3rd year. This is an ephemeral art show where you draw on the sidewalks. And it was held in September. We collaborated with Black Mountain Center for the Arts, had 45 artists participate. We had amateurs, professionals, children's, families. It was a lot of fun. And we will repeat next year along with the Center for the Arts, and hopefully we'll have a featured artist installation. We were in the Christmas parade with our banner, and we distributed pretzels that are made here in Black Mountain. We couldn't get pickles this year, which we really like to hand out. But we had the only tenor sax playing Christmas carols in the parade. We had public meetings at Lake Tomahawk in June, September, and October. We had election of officers. We had speakers, including Heather Cotton, the city planner for Marion, and Beth Heil, the executive director of Fontaflora. We participated in a holiday market with educational materials, and we published a monthly online newsletter. Plans for 2022. We're going to have a partnership with Park and Rec for a walk and learn, where we'll provide guides who will do history, but talks about parks and trails in town, as well as future plans. We'll also hold a Bluebird educational event in Riverwalk Park. We'll work on the Greenway Challenge again, Chalk the Walk. We're working with the library for an idea called storyboards, where you put up a story board and you walk along the Greenway and read a story. We're also going to consider an adopted trail type of program of some kind that we're kind of researching, and also looking into a National Parks Service Recreation or Rivers Trails Conservation Assistance Program application with community partners. And we put in 457 volunteer hours this year. And that's all.
Good.
And I did it. 3 minutes. What? Oh, thank you. 4 seconds. Question in 4 seconds? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We appreciate you being here. Thanks for your work. Julie White.
Okay, Julie White, 205 9th Street. And first of all, I want to thank you guys for asking someone on the Greenway Commission to be here tonight when we discuss the ordinance. But I do want to say this. I was riding my bike and I had this, what I thought was a great idea, which is where a lot of my great ideas occur. So I thought this, that rather than, we're going to present you 2 different ordinances, and I don't know how you all are going to choose one over the other or combine them. I don't understand that. But wouldn't it be nice if you got 1 or 2 people from, thank you. And thanks again for inviting us.
If I may interrupt, Julie, and my afternoon was spent trying to come up with a mix of the 2, and I'd like to give you that. So if the board considers it, you see what I've done to the 2 of them.
Okay, great. I had no idea how.
No, it was just finished 15 minutes ago. It's still a little wet.
Thank you, Ron. Joe Scotto.
I'll take my mask off for this. I want to thank the town council for this time. I'm Joe Scotto from 708 N Okanichi Avenue. And I'm speaking for the Recreation Commission on repairs and upkeep needed for the Gray Eagle Arena. Having the Gray Eagle Arena to host our youth for soccer tournaments helps in promoting youth athletic activity throughout our community. The upcoming season has over 275 participants signed up already. I want to acknowledge what a wonderful job Josh Henderson and his staff do in maintaining and running the Black Mountain Parks and Recreation Department. Earlier, I met with Josh to discuss what maintenance and upkeep was needed to continue providing wonderful and safe service to the community. One of the outstanding opportunities Parks and Rec has to offer the community is the indoor Gray Eagle Arena. The Gray Eagle Arena opened in 2006, as you all know, and after renovations was done to convert it from an old sock factory to an indoor multi-purpose arena with field turf. Some renovations have been done since, like plexiglass, a viewing wall, and a wall behind the goals. We met with town council representatives for a tour of the facility to see what needed to be done. 3 issues were brought to our attention for upkeep: replacing the ceiling insulation with spray foam, upgrading the lights to efficient LED lights, and replacing the playing field, which is worn out. I want to thank town council for the support on this issue and continue in moving forward with the Gray Eagle renovations. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you. Appreciate you being here this evening. So that is the extent of our public comments at this point in time. And so, Josh, I believe we are ready for the consent agenda. If you'll take us through that, please.
All right, your consent agenda, beginning with adoption of minutes. This will be the minutes of November 8th, 2021 regular session meeting and the November 4th, 2021 agenda meeting. 5B is a resolution to authorize signers of checks. 5C, approval of the North Carolina State Archives 2021 records retention and disposition schedule. Savannah, will you give a 2 or 3 minute update on what that is?
So this doesn't make too many changes to the records and disposition schedule that we already have in place, but we do have to adopt it to be in compliance with the state archives. The major changes are to personnel record standards, which have been retitled as human resources standards, and it makes some changes to how long we need to keep payroll and retirement documentation in order to be in compliance with the Division of Employment Security. So those are the major changes, and we can't destroy anything until this has been adopted, so it's good to have.
All right, 5D is a resolution and budget amendment for fines and forfeitures, special revenue fund. Every year, maybe multiple times a year, there's a board called the Governmental Accounting Standards Board, and they produce rules that we have to follow. This is in fact one of those. We will need to account for these fines and forfeitures in its own fund, and these are fines and forfeitures that we submit to the school system. 5E is a budget amendment for golf carts. This is something we've been through the past few months. We're just making our books right now. We did get the new golf courts in. Hopefully y'all have had a chance to drive those, and I think those are a welcome addition to the golf carts we currently or previously had at the golf course. 5F, a budget amendment for insurance proceeds. This is just to allocate the insurance reimbursements we got for the building that collapsed at our Public Works building due to a storm a few months back, and also some damage to a sanitation vehicle. 5G is a call for public hearing to add text for mobile food vendors and mobile food vendor courts. This would be, the public hearing will actually be in January. 5H is a resolution of support for the Metropolitan Planning Organization application for Blue Ridge Road modernization. This would be a study. 5I is a resolution of support for MPO application for Fauna Flora State Trail Connection. It's also a study. 5J is a resolution of support for MPO application for traffic and circulation study. This is for really with the Greenway now coming through downtown. We're going to need to study some traffic and circulation in those areas, so that's what this is for. And then finally, 5K is a budget amendment for community outreach. This is just to recognize some donations we received at the police department in order for us to do some of the things we do this time of year where we buy gifts for some needy families. That'll be it for your consent agenda.
Great, thank you, Josh. Council, do you have any questions for Josh on any of those items on the consent agenda?
Josh, for the new ordinance or the public hearing for the food truck ordinance, when does that text become available to the public?
The text is available now, I believe. Yes.
Oh, it is. Great. Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda items A through K as presented.
So moved.
Thank you. Any other discussion or questions? If not, all those in favor, aye.
Aye.
And opposed, no. We have no unfinished business. The new business for this evening.
Mayor Harris, I'm
Yes.
sorry, can I stop you? I have one citizen comment that addresses new business.
Oh, okay. Go right in.
This is James A. Full, Courtney C. Halcomb, 6 Gold Leaf Walkway, Black Mountain, North Carolina. My residence is 6 Gold Leaf Walkway, one of 6 homes in Gold Leaf Knoll subdivision. We do not have an HOA. The covenants and conditions and restrictions were written in such a way that managing common elements are virtually voluntary, which has presented obstacles to meeting the stormwater management rules for inspection, reporting, and maintenance. My request is the proposed amendment be modified to include minor subdivisions or other legal appropriate term be included in the amendment, owner be updated to owners, and that the new stormwater technician be responsible for all inspections, off and on years for the simple systems for single residences, duplexes, and up to 6 platted parcels per existing permit. And I recommend the inspections be funded from the stormwater utility annual assessment, 100% paid from those funds, or a reasonable to be defined portion of the third-party inspection fee, report, and any remediations, capped at a maximum to be determined per homeowner, be invoiced to the respective owners. That's it.
Thank you. Thank you, Josh. We have 2 board appointments to address this evening. The first being a board appointment to the Greenway Commission. And as you know, we have 2 applications, one from Mike Sobel, one from Pete Peary. And two good solid candidates for council to choose from. Does any member of council wish to speak? Or are you ready to vote? It looks like you're ready to vote, so the town clerk will.
I think you all have your pieces of paper now. She will collect those from you.
Thanks, Savannah.
So for the Greenways Commission, Councilmember Pertiller nominates Mike Sobel. Councilmember King also nominates Mike Sobel. Vice Mayor Stone also nominates Mike Sobel. Councilmember Christie nominates Mike Sobel. And Councilmember Hay also nominates Mike Sobel.
Very good, thank you. So the next seat is 1 seat, 1 3-year term on the ABC board ending June the 30th, 2024. We have 1 applicant, Shara Tabor, who is also the executive director of our chamber. No other discussion? You ready to vote? Let's do that.
So because there's only 1 applicant, they don't have ballots for this one. We just need a motion and vote.
Okay, by procedure. All right, you have the motion?
So moved.
Nominate Sharon Tabor for this position on the ABC board.
Right, any questions, comments? Hearing none, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Those no. And so, we are on to the contract for EB 5547B Section A.
Yes.
That's well described.
Of course it is. That's a little better explanation.
We have not come up with a catchy name to replace Riverwalk, and
Not we need.
give me a few days. So last we looked at the contract to complete the PE and for
the section known as the Oaks Connector. This is for the balance that picks up at the end of Sutton and gets us over to Black Mountain Avenue. And it's presented to you as one total contract, not two individuals. So we have one contract with Michael Baker International, and then we will have two separate with DOT that spawn from the one with Michael Baker. So the total, and Brett is here, he can answer questions. But the section A, if I can get my slides that I've had for myself, the PE is just short of $200,000, and the estimation for construction is around $745,000, and that's going to bring this project totally funded with match, and we will not need to continue to make budget allocations for match at this time. We'll settle up with DOT in the balance of all of this as we move forward with the agreements and get the STIP updated to that effect.
Right. Any questions for Jessica on the contract?
This is a fixed price contract, is that correct?
It is. If we have any big surprises, which I do not expect, we can make a change order. But that would have to come back to you. And Ron's read it several times.
But want it out.
If I could, I'll just say this is, it's pretty exciting. It's on paper, but we're finally at the place we need to be at, right? We got both contracts now. We're ready to go. So I think this is really the last thing that we are needing to get started on the whole thing.
Yes, this really sets the domino effect of paperwork in Raleigh into place, and that that takes a little bit of time, but we have what we need on our end to inform all of that.
So, questions, council?
Just as a ballpark, when would we start to see activity out there?
Can I tell you that after we get our agreement requested from DOT?
Yeah, but I knew it was a hard answer, a hard question to answer.
Well, last month I would have felt more confident reading those tea leaves, but given the current state of things and the variables that involve in Raleigh, because once they issue our new agreements, then they will audit what is called the kitchen sink, and that is the best term for this Excel document. And that process, sometimes it takes 4 weeks, sometimes it takes 12 weeks. So there's just quite a bit of variability in the paperwork time that has to be reviewed.
Well, I agree, it's very exciting.
Yeah, it is that. Any other questions, council?
Yeah, the product description outlines kind of what's being proposed here. But there is in the contract, there's a public involvement section and a call for a public meeting. So like how set is the description versus what could change, I guess,
That's the contract. That's what we're paying for. So once this is executed, that it is that.
Okay, so the public involvement at this point, I mean, is there any further public input, I guess, during these public meetings, or is that just an opportunity for people to weigh in or to?
That is something that Fred can probably speak to better than I can. A lot of that's about updating and sharing information once a project is already formed. That's kind of the point
Where
that's
do you
in.
care to come up and speak?
So I'll do the best I can with that question. So your question was, if I understand, when does the public happen? When does the public input happen?
1.3 is calls for a public
Yes.
meeting there, and I was just, what is the point of that meeting? Is it just for educational purposes, or is it?
Typically for these types of design engineering projects, around the 60% design level, when we have enough information, I know fundamentally what we're going to have to do. We'll hold a public meeting for amenities, for ideas that they might have. That it's just a way to keep the public engaged.
Okay.
So that's when that's anticipated to happen in the scheme of things.
Got it. All right, thank you.
Great, thank you, Fred.
Yeah.
Any other questions? If not, I'd entertain a motion to approve the contract as presented.
So moved.
Thank you. Questions, comments? Hearing none, all those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Update on Greenway Commission ordinance, that would be, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm in the
No, you're
place.
right.
Yeah,
Jessica and I and Attorney Sneed will
All
all
right.
tag team this. I'll let Jessica kind of
Thank you,
start off.
Brad.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, next one. So when I became involved with the commission, they were functioning largely like a 501c3. And since then, they've made a lot of progress, as evidenced by Ann's very quick and impressive update from the community organization that has been teased out from the commission. And since then, we've been trying to kind of distill the roles and responsibilities of an advisory body and those activities related to policymaking, as opposed to community-based education outreach and activities of that nature. So the last kind of thing to do at this point is to clean up the ordinance to be updated in general for language, outdated references, that kind of thing, and also clarity in roles and responsibilities. So I'm going to read a little list from the School of Government. My breath got away from me. I apologize. This is roles and limitations of an authority of advisory groups that are appointed by you all. And this is in a handbook that is published by the School of Government. And that is to advise the Board of Commissioners or Council on policies and procedures, to facilitate public discussion via public comment periods. Members should stay informed on their subjects of interest to their specific groups. Attendance is fundamental, part of their responsibility. Not to be involved in the administration or operations of town or city departments. May not direct staff or initiate programs, plans, etc. May not conduct studies or create policies without the approval of the governing body. Does not determine or establish policies without, and does not take administrative action on their own. They may not incur expenses or obligate town funds in any financial manner. And they may not conduct any activity that may constitute or be construed as official government review of departmental action or employee actions. And they may not, and that's a repeat. So that's sort of the general best practices and constraints the School of Government publishes. So when we put this together, we really wanted to make it very clear what the roles and responsibilities are and how those are ferried all to you and in what manner and with what frequency. And so I put together a version based on City of Winston-Salem, and I spoke to City of Asheville Bike and Ped Task Force members about how they operate as well. And we proposed review of plans, proposed projects, policies, proposed programs, grant applications, because those are the tools that we use in all manner of achieving our goals. The ordinance is also structured to have an annual report or recommendations that can span from priorities to budget recommendations that would be made to you all early in the year so that can inform your budgeting process. And we suggest it annually because that's how we develop projects and proposals for everything in our departments. The item about grants is changed to provide information to staff because the commission can't obligate funds or set financial priority. And the education and outreach is maintained, but at the direction of you all or staff, because as the School of Government directs us that the appointed bodies can't be self-directed because it can be misconstrued as representation of town priorities or efforts. So those are the major highlights. Really kind of hems us into those best practices.
Great. Josh, Ron?
So, I don't know how y'all want to deal with this, if you want us to go. So that pretty much is the version that staff has put together.
Well,
with
I would,
Attorney
so
Sneed.
if you're asking for some direction on where to go, I would, between you and Ron, hit what you think are the salient points that will help council to understand the differences and perhaps what, and we've had it, so everyone's had a chance to look at it, and maybe Ron can point out the changes for the public in particular that maybe doesn't have access to the most recent draft, which those changes are, I think, good changes, but to point those out. But yes, just it's not a long document, no reason to go through it line by line, but there are key points that, that I would remind council that our town staff, including town attorney, are presenting to us for approval, frankly. And so, and Ron has worked on it extensively. And so, yeah, just point out for us what you consider to be important aspects of the document that you presented to us.
Sure. So the document, Jessica's went through some of those. I will say, or at least add, when we went through this, the questions that we had back and forth with staff, is this something that is this a body that needs to meet every month? Is that something that needs to be a standing meeting every month?
Required,
excuse me. So what we came to was, we're gonna leave that in there and have a standing meeting, and if they have business, they meet, and if they don't have business, they don't meet. Some of the other stuff Jessica mentioned, I think when you start getting involved in, the specifics of things, that is better suited for staff to deal with, whether that be writing a grant, not that we wouldn't seek help from folks to help write those grants, but I think it's important that staff is involved in those grants, just because there could be, for an example, there could be a match requirement that the council is not aware of, that you may be obligated to match a different grant.
Well, if I could interject something, it's also because you're committing town resources, taxpayer dollars, and your elected officials who you report to. That's how it works. And of course, we want the input from our Greenway committee members, but we can't delegate council's responsibility, and nor do we want yours delegated, because you need to be responsible to council. So that's my 2 cents worth, but that's, I think, I don't think it's necessarily my 2 cents worth. I think that's kind of some of the driving thought behind it, if I'm understanding things correctly.
And I think, the annual report's gonna be a good thing. That's something new that's not been happening. I think that's gonna be good for staff, the commission, and council to see that type of stuff. Updating plans, we do that. We kind of do that somewhat on a set schedule. Plans are only good for so long, and then we have to update them. The Greenway plan was updated a couple of years ago, I think. So that one seems to be okay for now. And I think, at least finally for me, we don't have any other boards in town that have an actual liaison that sits on that board from this board. So if council wants to go to a meeting, they can go to any meeting they want to. They don't necessarily have to be called a liaison. But those are the big things from our side that we had some concerns about.
I want to, I shortened something unintentionally as I was trying to hit highlights, and that is a flow of information. This was one of the harder things to wrap our head around as a group as their activity shifted. And so having business is the question, like what is the business and how does it get there? And the way that it is written now, originally I had drafted it would be at your direction, because that's the traditional model of advisory groups. You say, I bring you something, and either you take action or you say, go get comment. That's how it is on, like, for planning board or any number of things. Another option, because this group is not required to exist by North Carolina general statute, you can shape the workflow how you want. So you can have it that way, or you can say this list of items, plans, proposed projects, policies, proposed programs, or grant applications that relate to specific items of active mobility, that before I bring them to you, and not everything has to come to you, but if it has a budget or something you have to bless before it comes to you, that it goes through them first. And then that would come to you with, that information would be ferried to you in a staff report when that item is shared with you. Very similar to when I give you a staff report about a text amendment or a map amendment from planning board. You get an agenda item that has the vote and any concerns or whatever that came from that body. And then I share the proposal with you. And that way you have that information at the same time. So the way it's presented, when the one that Ron and I were working on this afternoon, puts that review into that process before it comes to you, not at your direction. It can be either way.
And so that was one of your changes, recent changes, Ron?
Recent as they can get.
Right.
No, you had two almost competing versions, and one was Jessica's version, the staff's version, trying to very tightly follow the school of government's description of an advisory board. And we have the former Greenways Commission, which will now have a new title, which means it has a broader scope just in its title, that's accustomed to doing a little brainstorming on its own. It didn't want to take that away, but needed to create a flow of information. And whether I succeed or not, I'm sure, I don't know. But the idea is this commission will, if you guys are working on a project and you say, okay, what do they think? Then that's the way an advisory body typically functions. We're also giving them the ability to run across information, public input, just on the street, come up with ideas. That's to be channeled to you through planning staff, like all the other reports. Our planning board spends 99% of its time working on what you guys want done. 1% of its time looking at the community as a whole and coming up with their own ideas. And we expect this body to do the same, but the flow of information to come up. A couple of things I did through just out of experience. In the version, you've got lots of versions. You can pick one, flip a coin. But what I did about their regular meetings, I put in there that they may have regular meetings and they shall determine the interval by resolution so that they don't come to this board every time things get more active or less active. I put that this board may or may not have a liaison from this board. A couple of you have been around long enough to find out, to remember what a disaster that liaison system used to be. The boards, those committees started feeling like they were getting micromanaged and expected their person, that liaison person, to be their person to come to the board. It was a little rough. But there are projects where you may want a board member involved all the way through. And I just put in there that you may, but not a mandatory thing. You don't have any other board that has a mandatory council member as a liaison member.
Is it fair to say that that the thrust of the, if you're trying to look at it from 1,000 feet, that you want the advisory board to move through staff, town manager, and the flow of information to be fluid and with council back to an advisory committee, but we want that avenue and that flow to be through staff.
Same as all of your other committees.
That's
That's
sort of
correct.
That's right. Thank you. Any other comments, Ron?
Probably, but I don't remember any of them. Those struck me as the important things, trying to create the flow of information, that there are an advisory board, tweak a few words in there about the financial part.
Right.
And obviously, if the Greenway Commission stumbles across the funding source, we want to know about it.
Right.
Didn't want it to sound like they could go out and apply for the money and see what happened.
Right.
When that should come back to you. More of the language that they're advising and not acting, so that you've got other bodies out there and you've got staff that does that. I just want to clear that up a little. Whether I did that successfully in short order this afternoon, I don't know, but that was the idea.
Thank you. Council? Go ahead, Pam.
Two quick questions. I noticed the new name is a committee and the old name was a commission.
There's no legal difference.
Can you tell us the difference between a committee and a commission?
There is none.
Okay. So I do like the idea of a broader name beyond Greenways. I thought that was a good idea to make it have a broader scope a little bit. My other question was around changing it. Currently, you have to be a member of the East Buncombe Fire District to serve. And it changes to you have to be a resident of the town of Black Mountain. And I wondered why you were recommending that. And I also wondered if there are any current members that would be excluded because of that change. Two would no longer be eligible.
Jessica, do you know?
We can't do anything outside of our physical boundary. And so I'm not accustomed to bringing people to sit on boards to make recommendations for things that are not where they reside. But that's, That
It's
seemed
more-
like old language to me. That
It's
was
more
removed.
commonly found where in towns that exercise their
ETJs.
extraterritorial jurisdiction, which we do not. The version I gave you is town, but you're not locked into that, obviously. I didn't want to leave it wide open, so it looked like anybody in the world, and I
Right,
put it in
right.
town. This
Right.
board can
Right.
define that, those
But
limits any way you want.
East Buncombe Fire District is not wide open, correct? I mean, that's a defined boundary.
It is, it's Montreat, it takes you down to the river going east to the top of the mountain, down to High Rock Acres. Yeah, all the way down, actually, down to the Broad River Fire District.
I think there's some concern about making recommendations of spending tax dollars that
Right.
you are not, that you don't pay. Doesn't sit real well with me, but that's up to you.
And I think in Pam's comments, it's understandable that staff would make that, I concur with that recommendation, but it's understandable that staff would make it. My concurrence with it is because of our stewardship over the town resources, frankly. So that's my thought about it. But it is understandable that staff would make that recommendation. The town manager that represents the town and looks after our interests would also concur with that and offer that in his work.
I guess, and I would say that they're not spending any of the money.
Well, I'm not
I'm
trying to
saying-
argue with you.
I
I'm
can
I'm
say-
fine with it. I'm just
I
saying
can
my
see the
comment.
other point,
Yeah.
other side of that point too, that they're making recommendations and ultimately it's us and we do live in the town. So I can see both sides.
And also, this council appoints the people to the committee. So if, in my opinion, if there's someone who maybe resides outside of the town who the council deems important or their viewpoint important enough to be part of the committee, then then that maybe should be an option.
Ron, and I know that this was a rough or a rush draft, it sounds like this afternoon. I just reading through, I noticed there's a number of places in here where it still says Greenways Committee. I assume that needs to be changed to,
I tried to drop Greenways just so every time, yeah, I still see
I
that.
mean, and
It
then
should
there's
just say
also a
committee.
Board of Aldermen in there.
Probably so.
And so,
Should be town council and just drop the Greenways.
yeah, I mean, I would think that, and I don't know if we're voting on this tonight or if this is just talking about the concept or
No,
whether
it's
we
on-
want to have a good, clean draft.
Right. It's on to approve, but you can certainly make a motion to table it for our next meeting.
I mean, I would like to see, I know they need more time to make sure they have a good, clean version of it.
Would you like to entertain a motion to table? We'll pick it up in January.
I would make that motion then.
So we have a motion to table this agenda item, and we will resume discussion on it in January. So I think that's a good idea, just because of coming late and
Yeah.
the draft coming in late, but I think it's been a good discussion and helpful. And it doesn't need to end if anyone has any additional questions or comments.
And give the commission folks time to review Ron's draft as well, since Julie
Right.
just handed it earlier tonight. I said it would also give the commission time to review this as well, since you're just seeing it tonight as well.
Trying to figure it out too. And we would like to.
I'm sorry, we can't do public comment. But, so we have a motion to table until our January meeting. And if there is no more discussion or questions, all those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. All right. Item D, post-construction residential stormwater inspection text amendment.
Yes, and I'll start by, you may have to repeat your public comment from earlier that is related to this.
Okay.
We have our stormwater staff and Philip, and it's so exciting. And she is getting certified in January to do certain types of BMP inspections. I think at different points in our career, Josh and I have both had the certification and no longer do. And the state is supportive of certain types of inspections being conducted with this level of certification, but not all. We are very aware that having these inspections is expensive, and we have worked to try to get lower rates from engineers for folks with residential stormwater systems, but it's still expensive and cumbersome, if not a little confusing. So I worked with the state, and they have blessed our staff to conduct inspections on residential stormwater, single family, one thing, not neighborhoods, not developments, not commercial, not a parking lot or a bank, just a single family house. And to do it, it still has to be inspected annually, but we can do it for 2 years in a row, and then the third year, a PE will have to do it. So this was some relief that the state was willing to compromise to allow us to provide that service. We're also entitled to conduct regular inspections in random inspections and things, but our regular annual inspection can be done by town staff with this particular certification. But the text amendment allows that to happen. Currently, it requires a PE or certain list of qualifications every year. So this will just allow staff to be able to conduct a very narrow section of those inspections. But we hope that it is a benefit that people can, experience right off the top with the implementation of the stormwater utility.
And a PE, going back to state standards, once every 3 years.
That's right, for this type. Other ones remain annually with a PE, but in this case, it does help relieve some burden on homeowners.
Right.
And I think the comment was for minor subdivisions or small systems, and the state will not support that this time.
State law doesn't allow it.
They would not support that right now. It may be in the future, and it's certainly a conversation to revisit, but currently this is what they have said is okay.
Thank you for that clarification. Council, question?
I have a question, Jessica, and I'm sure it's out of ignorance. So how many houses, what does this apply to? I mean, this kind of inspection, I don't totally understand that.
That's fine. We have a post-construction stormwater ordinance, which is part of our MPDS permit, which comes down from clean water, on and on. And we do have a fairly strict one, if not one of the most strict in the state. So if you were disturbing or create 5,000 square foot of impervious, you have to treat and contain a 10-year storm. That is not 100%. There's no such thing as containing 100% of your stormwater on your property.
Right.
But it is ambitious. And so we do have, I think this year we have the neighborhood of 9 permits. It's not abnormally, we're only capturing a few more than we did when we had 12,000 square feet. But what they're capturing is greater. So anybody who holds a post-construction permit has to comply with the inspection requirements to ensure that they're functioning properly. These are low demand systems. They tend to be simple, and you also have to maintain inspection records and all of those sorts of things. But this is basically allowing staff to conduct some of those inspections at no cost. It's just
Right.
allowed by staff.
So it's not every
No, sir.
construction
No,
has
sir.
this requirement. It just depends on
There's a
lot-
triggering level, yes.
the level
Mhm.
and when you apply for your permit and so forth.
That's
the
right.
town says, well, you're in this category. for
That's right. And
stormwater.
they have to submit a stormwater plan from an engineer, and it has to, all of that good stuff, yes.
Thank you.
Mhm.
And again, to clarify, the triggering level dropped from
12,000 to 5,000.
to
12,000 to 5,000.
12,000 to 5,000.
And the
Square
storming
feet of the lot. Is that what you?
of impervious or disturbed. And the size storm increased from a 1-year to a 10-year. And how long we'll be able to continue to hold this regulation, I'm not sure. It continues to be floated around in Raleigh to some extent.
Right.
If we will be able to exceed the minimum requirements. For now, we can.
So just to remind the public, but also council and me, we try to understand what we're doing, but we're doing what we're doing because we have very little choice.
This is an unfunded federal mandate, yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's important for everybody to keep that in mind. So Council, any other questions on the post-construction residential stormwater inspection text amendment?
Just to clarify, the current setup, if we don't change it, it's up to the homeowner to pay for the inspection,
Yes,
and we're offering it for 2 years or
Mhm.
3 for free. Is that right?
yes,
Whether stormwater fee helps pay.
it does. This is a staff position we
Sure.
did not have before. Yes.
Questions? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion to approve text amendment number 0-21-19.
So moved.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. E, Josh.
Mayor, could you, just one second, can I ask you,
Sure.
related but not about that ordinance? I'm hearing in the public from time to time, people referring to the stormwater tax.
Hmm.
And I believe it might be helpful to just clarify what's the difference between a stormwater utility, which is what we have,
Mhm.
and the stormwater tax. Would you mind just taking a minute to do that?
I'm going to do this briefly. And Ron or Josh, be ready to chime in. There's no, to my knowledge, I've never heard of a stormwater tax, but a stormwater utility being different from a tax type of thing. It is, a utility provides a very specific service, much like a water utility, or exactly like a water utility. You turn on the water tap, water comes out. Stormwater utility is dedicated to cleaning and treating stormwater and managing stormwater infrastructure through compliance with our MPDS permit, which is largely dedicated to stormwater quality and less so to quantity. Quantity is dealt with through maintaining your infrastructure to the right size and in good condition. Which proportion of that is how big depends on what metric you're using. But it is dedicated and it's in a protected fund. It does not go into the general fund like Texas do. It can only go toward implementation of our stormwater program.
Right, thank you, Jessica. Is that good, Sam?
I found it helpful. I hope the public will too.
Good, thank you. So we are on to, Josh, the adoption of our meeting dates.
So what you have in front of you is to get us ready for 2022. We'll have our first meeting, January 10th is the first board regular scheduled meeting. So this is to adopt our workshop and regular session meetings for the calendar year of 2022.
Right, thank you. Council, you got those dates in front of you? And looks hauntingly familiar.
If you don't have a corrected version, you'll see the February dates are swapped.
Yeah,
Yes.
okay.
I move to adopt the new meeting schedule for 2022.
Motion is on the made. Do you have any questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Carver Center Solar Project.
So this is something we spoke about during budget time last year. We had been in conversations with the county. The county is going through the process of doing a lot of different solar projects and on various properties they own. We wanted to get kind of on board with them. Usually when you do that, you get a better number as they're bidding more projects. However, we didn't get a better number. The project originally was around 75,000. We budgeted 80,000, and that's going to be about $20,000 short. So the option I was given from the county was they can reject the bid, which means we don't do anything with it, or we can pay the difference, or they can do a scaled down version, which may not be exactly the same, but they would try to do a version that would scale in and be, come under the funding we currently have of $80,000.
So let me ask a question, Josh. If council chose to fund the shortfall, how would the motion best be framed?
I may look at Ron, but I would say if you decide to do that, we would just have a budget amendment next meeting.
To do so.
To
So you got the
cover that
precise
shortfall.
numbers, the
Yes.
numbers that you need.
Yes.
Okay. Well, so then, does it then make sense to table this until the next meeting? We don't have anything to vote on till you present it. So then I would entertain a motion that we table this agenda item so that we have precise numbers and can discuss it at our January meeting.
I'll just make a comment that I would support paying the full.
I agree.
If they cut it back, if
I
they
agree.
scale it back to the 80,000, what does that mean? Like we just get less sunlight?
So here's the issue, and without running the numbers and doing some analysis, they're not gonna be able to answer this, but there's gonna be a point where if they scale it back, there's not gonna be a payoff, right?
Exactly.
So it makes sense to do it.
Right.
So I think,
Very
if we're
good.
gonna do it, probably funding the extra is
Very
probably.
good. So we have a motion to table this until January. Any questions or comments? Hearing none. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Thank you.
So Josh, when you come back with that, you'll tell us proposed sources of this extra funding or how we would pay.
Yeah,
for
we'll
it.
probably, I will, but more than likely it'll just be unrestricted fund balance.
We have a public hearing, so I'd entertain a motion that we go into the public hearing. Public hearing is for text amendments to add definitions for murals, premises, and temporary signs, and amend the definition of signs.
So moved.
Very good. All those in favor, aye. And Jessica.
I'm going to read you these definitions. A mural is a graphic displayed on the exterior of a building, generally for the purposes of decoration or artistic expression, including but not limited to painting, fresco, or mosaic, but excluding any commercial name, brand, or message. Okay, premises. A building together with its immediate and adjacent grounds. The new definition for a sign, which is different, is any device, structure, fixture, painting, or visual image using words, graphics, symbols, numbers, or letters designed and used for the purpose of attracting attention or communicating a readable, comprehensive, legible message. And a temporary sign, being a new definition, is a sign with or without a structural frame, but not permanently attached to a building, structure, or the ground, and intended for a limited period of display. And that's it.
Great, thank you. Does any member of the public wish to speak? Just come forward. You have 3 minutes, and again, just name and address. And I guess you can just do it.
And Lutz, 211 North Park Lane. I was, in reading that, we didn't mention these gosh awful signs I've seen before that are lights. And you've probably seen them. I think driving to South Carolina, you see them. Advertising lights, signs that have a lit message that's so bright in the daylight that it's blinding, and at night it's really blinding. I don't know if we need to address those, or if that's
Got like 40 pages on the sign ordinance right here.
gosh. Oh no, don't read it. Please. Don't read it. But I don't know if that's covered in there or not, so that we don't end up with those bright kind of lit
We
signs.
can go through applicability if you want to, or you can.
Well, I think, thank you, Ann, for your comments. I think you could probably answer Ann's question in general terms adequately, and if not, we'll circle back around.
We currently don't allow, I think, called chasing signs where the lights go. That's already prohibited. We do have 9.2, which has several pages of regulations this applies to. And then we have signs that are prohibited, being moving signs, animated or rotating, digital chargeable copy that scrolls, blinks, flashes, including but not limited to LED, LCD, or similar technology, except for these day and time, like gas prices or temperature, like at the bank or gas station. And I think that might address those specifically.
Right, thank you.
They are very bright.
Right,
It's true.
right, thank you. Any other member of the public wish to speak, Marilyn? Come running up.
Marilyn Sabansky, 516 Laurel. This is just pop-up thought as to the definition of murals, and I'm thinking of the one that's, as you walk up the back walkway to the Arts Center, it's actually a relief, which isn't a fresco, which isn't a painting, which isn't a mosaic. So whether you need to,
It's
To
not
it.
limited to.
not limited to, okay, well, all right, thank you.
I mean, you
Thank,
had it.
thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Marilyn. So, Ron, do you care to address that? You think it's broad, the language is broad enough, it's covered?
Well, got me, but it's a graphic display that includes but not limited to a painting, fresco, or a mosaic. So that would be a graphic display. It doesn't have the name of the business in it. I think it fits.
Thank you, thank you. Any other member of the public wish to speak? Offer comment? Hearing none, I'd entertain a motion, council, that we move out of the public hearing.
So moved.
Thank you. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right, council, with questions?
I have a few.
It's time to ask them.
All right. So I was trying to compare the proposed new ordinance to the current one.
Just definitions right now.
Yeah,
Oh, just definitions.
we're just doing the definition public hearing right now.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Never mind.
Any other
I
questions?
do not. No, I do not.
Anyone else? Well, hearing none, we entertain a motion to adopt ordinance 0-21-16 as presented.
So moved.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor, aye.
Aye.
And opposed, no. Thank you. We move on to public hearing to repeal the existing sign ordinance and replace with the new sign ordinance. And so, council, I'd entertain a motion that we enter into the public hearing for ordinance 0-21-17.
So moved.
Thank you. Questions, comments? All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
And Jessica.
So you have a whole new sign ordinance. And this is prompted by Reed versus Gilbert, which is Supreme Court case law from 2014, 15?
15.
And the gist of it is that you cannot regulate signs based on their content. Time, manner, and place are the mechanisms for review. So in our new ordinance, that's our consideration. We do introduce a few variations that are worth noting, which that is we allow banners. Think of the we're hiring banners that are not in the right of way, they're in the grand opening style banners. They're temporary in nature, those are allowed. We do discuss crown signs, which we have, but were not previously defined, like in a hotel or a business park building at the top. We did not have those before. And one question that came up is like, how different would this be, like things on the ground today with this new ordinance? The vast majority of things on the ground are going to comply. There are going to be a few that don't. They're typically just a hair too big or a hair too tall. Those will be grandfathered in. We are not engaged in proposing amateurization in this, and that's for a couple of reasons. One, that would be an enormous undertaking. And two, we only have those records for 7 years, so we can't even create a database to go back. So essentially, we're just going to be moving forward, new signs, as they are applied for, will come into compliance with our new ordinance. Another big difference in this ordinance that is important to me and people are using it is that it's more visual. We have lots of graphics. Thank you, Town of Chapel Hill, for the help in that department. That is very helpful in describing that. If you've ever tried to apply for a sign, it's pretty tedious. It's very detailed, and having these pictures really is helpful. It's much easier to read. It's a lot easier to understand. This ordinance will be considered through the UDO process as well, so there may be even room for additional improvement and consistency in that process. But this was already out of the gate when we started that, so we wanted to see it through and go ahead and get right. We have, for what it's worth, been following the rules that came out of Reed versus Gilbert. But this formalizes it.
Great. They got it? Great,
I think
thank you.
that's-
Thanks for that report. Is there a member of the public who wishes to make comment? Seeing none or hearing none, council would entertain a motion to go out of the public hearing.
So moved.
Thank you. All those in favor? Great, thank you. Questions? Doug?
I guess before we go into the ordinance itself, is there ever an instance where we could regulate the content? I mean, if it was in, okay.
Doug, I'll send you a copy of that ruling. It will make your head hurt.
It will.
But it is, if you follow it literally, which they did literally, if you have to read it to determine if it's legal, then your statute, your ordinance is unconstitutional.
Ron and I had a robust conversation months ago over email if you could even describe what was exempt, because you had to, if you had to read it to determine if it was exempt, you were reading it. And we went in circles. It's because it's so literal.
Well, okay. All right. I just tried to flag a few things that caught my attention. One is around the safety precautions on C, is that 16C, I think. Prohibited signs. No signs that use stop, slow, caution, or danger. I know that a lot of people have those little like running kids that have a little flag.
Not legally enforceable.
Not legal.
As a sign, they're not legally enforceable from the police department.
I mean, I'm sure that that sign is not legally enforceable.
Right.
Are they allowed to have that sign?
That would probably be fall under like the temporary signs because they're not anchored to the ground. They're used for, they're movable. They're intended to bring awareness to a particular spot.
Okay.
I don't see us moving those. Ron?
You can't read the message.
I can't read it.
So even if it's permanent and posted in a place that any sign can be posted, that sign can be placed there. Whether or not the police would enforce what it says is a different question. You just have an ordinance on the books.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying that the police would enforce it. I'm just saying, can people, put the children at play signs or whatever?
If they're in the right of way, no.
In the private property.
If you got a way to sit it back in your yard, you're probably going to be able to keep it.
Yeah.
Okay. Political signs, campaign signs. I have 3 that were in my garage, and I measured them just to see if they would comply. My own from this past campaign does not. It's 2 inches too wide. Not that I need to reuse that one or anything, but but I did find that those 18 by 24, where is it?
10.
10.
10.
10 under 9.2.
No sign may be larger than 18 by 24. So 2 of the 3 that I just had randomly in my garage didn't work. And I wonder if, we're talking about statewide, not federal campaigns here. Not every campaign is going to have maybe not the same size. So I wonder if that's a little bit too restrictive. Where that number came from, and if we think we want to widen it.
I
would
don't
say
have,
that 18 by 24 is probably something that we pulled, that's a standard number that folks use. Now, if council wants to make a change to that, then that's up to y'all.
As long as they're temporary. That's the key part with political signs.
Right. Exactly.
No, it is. I do wonder, there is sort of a standard size.
I think that that's what that is, and I don't know how precise they're cut or mounted on their wire frames with 2 inches. The additional requirements.
Mine was 26 inches wide, but instead of 24.
Well, this would be my thought in council. I don't think, if you did, is it create a problem if you did for political signs? 30, rounded up,
Right.
30 by
20.
20.
I think I only have one question, and it's for Ron. Ron, the general statutes related to political signs, does it describe size?
I don't remember.
That's
And-
my
and-
only
And I'm
question.
absolutely amazed that that statute's still there.
Yeah, me too.
I can just say the company that I ordered my campaign signs offered standard sign. It wasn't like you could say, I want it this size. You know, it was like, here's what we have. Take it.
Yeah,
And
it's
it
like
was
a
20
ratio.
It was 26 inches wide.
I have zero heartburn over 2 inches.
Yeah,
but
well, I guess, so the other one that I measured that didn't comply was taller than 18, it was 20, so, you know, it was 2 inches on the other side. So I guess what I'm saying is that, you know, maybe there really isn't a standard, that they're a little bit off, and we should have a little wiggle room there so we don't cause a big problem where a whole campaign gets with their signs pulled.
I would think that, you know, you could make a change and you still may end up with a sign that's a few inches off.
Yeah.
And I think and I'll let the town manager and town attorney chime in. I think we've always been a little on the grace side, but if it's the size of a billboard or something, then,
Sure,
you know, it's a
yeah.
different matter. And I really think that's kind of what we're trying to address.
I can just see somebody in a nasty campaign going out there. and measuring
Get the
tape.
biggest sign you could get.
No,
Complaining
understand.
campaign's not following the ordinance. I mean, we should
Yeah,
have,
but somebody opposing.
But you're not gonna be able to get rid of it, I don't think. It's always gonna
I
happen.
don't, like, can we
Measure it.
have some sort of like margin of error, like that accommodates? I mean, that would, if I were reviewing something like that, I would say, well, that's certainly within a certain margin of error. You know, having something printed or framed or whatever.
Right.
I don't know if that's something you want to write down or if you just want to make it bigger. That's really up to you.
I just suggest making it a couple inches bigger on both sides.
Just do 20 by 30 then.
Right.
So any objections to that, council, 20 by 30 in that particular spot?
I think that meets the spirit and the
Yeah.
intent to
Right.
maintain line of sight and things like that.
Right. Doug, I think the floor is still yours.
okay, all right, I think that I only have one more here. I noticed a typo, or what I think is a typo under general standards, same lots, lotus is what it says. So I might want to correct that.
Okay, duly noted.
The same lot as, just a missing. space.
Oh, lot as, that's what it is. Oh, yeah, okay, I see what it's saying.
Any
All
others,
right,
Doug?
yeah, I'm good, thank you.
Any other, council, any other questions? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion to adopt ordinance 0-21-17 as amended.
So if I can, real quick, the only thing that we changed was the no sign might be larger than 18 by 24. We changed that to 20 by 30.
And
Correct?
fix the typo. Yeah.
And fix it.
All right, motion, council. As amended to pass this ordinance.
So moved.
Great, thank you. Any other questions or comments before we vote? All those in favor
Aye.
and opposed? Thank you.
I would just like to thank the staff and the planning board, because I know that they spent a lot of time thinking and researching and measuring the sign on the Hampton Inn up at the
Yes.
top. I mean, it was a lot of work. And
Big kudos to our planner one, Jake, who we hired. This was his first big project, and to Anna Stearns for putting up with us and really taking a deep dive on it as well. I have never met a planner who said my favorite ordinance are sign ordinances. We are happy to see this. Thank you.
Thanks for your work. Thanks for your work. Thank you for those comments, Pam. Comments, communications from town attorney. Do you have anything for us, Mr. Sneed?
I have nothing new. The legislature has quieted down without passing a handful of the statutes we're afraid of, so now we'll wait for spring and do it again.
There you go. Spring will come. Josh, do you have anything for
Yeah,
us?
just real quick, Mayor Harris. just a reminder to council and the public, the town offices will be closed for holidays, Friday the 24th and Monday the 27th, and then Friday the 31st.
Thank you. Council? Yes.
I do have one comment, and the public records made me think of this, and I sent an email to Josh in Savannah. It seems to me for email retention and so forth, I don't know how often that becomes an issue, but if the town has the capacity to issue email addresses for council members, it sure would be a lot simpler to have those. Then you have a central system, and it's easy, and it's not everybody's own email. So I don't know, it doesn't need a motion, but I expect that.
Right, no, I think it's a good idea.
Outlook has that, right? I know it does, yeah.
Great. Anyone else?
I'll just, I've been talking a lot tonight, so I apologize for that, but it's been a year now since I was appointed to, or not appointed, I was sworn in to serve on the town council / board of aldermen, and I just want to thank the staff for helping me get through this first year, and the board. It's been a pleasure to serve with each of you, and the community. It's been an honor, so thank you very much, and Happy New Year, and Merry Christmas.
Thank you. Councilmember Patil, you have anything?
I do. I was one of those slow people in a parade that got kind of behind.
I was really kind of slow too.
But I tell you what, I had a great time. I'd just like to thank everybody that put that together. It was absolutely wonderful.
Thank you. Ryan, do you have anything?
No, not much more than what Doug would say. I know it's been a very trying year for folks. I want to thank them and commend them for doing their best and trying to keep everybody safe, wearing a mask, being considerate, checking on folks. It really has been a community effort, and for all of the contention that we see nationwide, I really do think people in this town have demonstrated their love for one another, and I thank them for that, and I ask them to continue to do that. As we end this year, just since it has been so challenging, I just wish everybody the best, and I hope that we are at the tail end of this and that things will soon get better. And from my family to yours, happy holidays and New Year, and a Happy New Year.
Wow, I can't follow that. I agree with everything Ryan just said. Thank you.
Great, thank you. I trust everyone listening in and here with us this evening, council, staff, all the staff. We had our staff luncheon last week, and it was nice to see everyone and be with everyone. Council member King was there, and I was able to attend, and it was a very well done in Savannah. Another grand occasion. And I have nothing more to add either, except my personal wishes to each one for Merry Christmas, Happy Holiday, and God's blessings on you in the new year. So go in peace, and thanks for being here this evening and participating and listening. And for those of you watching or will watch later, blessings to you and Happy New Year, Merry Christmas, and Happy Holidays. Thank you.
Quick close there.
Now to get back to back to the business end of things, I would like to ask council to go into a closed session to discuss personnel matters as permitted by North Carolina General Statute 143-318.11.6.
So moved.
Thank you. All those in favor?
All right.
Thanks. See everybody. Thanks, Jessica.